In a small Mississippi town where secrets run deep, Nurse Olivia Carter wasn't looking for trouble. But when she found a bruised boy hiding behind her clinic, instinct overcame caution. "Don't let Daddy put me in the hole again," Eli whispered, unleashing a war with Brent Whitmore, the town's untouchable power broker. What began as a simple act of protection revealed a network of corruption that extended from Child Protective Services to the county courthouse. Dismissed as mentally disturbed by those protecting Whitmore's crimes, Olivia faced an impossible choice: return the boy to his abuser or become a fugitive herself. With only her friend Andre and a faded photograph connecting her to Eli's missing mother, Olivia challenged an empire built on threatened silence. This is the story of how saving one child exposed the darkest corners of power, and how a woman who had already lost everything became the one person who couldn't be intimidated into looking away. Just before we get back to it, I'd love to know where you're watching from today. And if you're enjoying these stories, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow's special episode is one you definitely don't want to miss. Rain pattered against the windows of the small clinic as Olivia Carter gathered her things. The clock on the wall read 7:15 p.m., another long shift complete. She smiled wearily at the janitor as she switched off the lights in her office. Working as a nurse practitioner in this quiet Mississippi town wasn't glamorous, but it had become her sanctuary over the years. "Heading to Doreen's again?" the janitor asked, leaning on his mop. "Just for a quick bite," Olivia replied, pulling her raincoat tighter. "Tell Margaret I'll see her tomorrow." The local diner sat 2 blocks from the clinic, its neon sign casting a warm glow through the drizzle. As Olivia pushed through the door, the bell jingled softly, and several patrons looked up with welcoming nods. "There she is," Doreen called, from behind the counter. The older white woman slid a mug of hot tea across the counter before Olivia even sat down. "Figured you'd need this. Weather's getting nasty out there." "You're a miracle worker," Olivia said, wrapping her hands around the warm mug. The diner felt like a second home, a place where everyone knew her as the gentle-hearted nurse with the sharp mind and quick smile. What they didn't know was how empty her real home felt most nights. After a simple meal of soup and cornbread, Olivia paid her bill and stepped back into the rain. The bus stop was 6 blocks away, and she hunched her shoulders against the downpour. Her thoughts drifted to the quiet evening ahead, a glass of wine, maybe the book she'd been trying to finish for weeks. 20 minutes later, Olivia unlocked her front door and shook the rain from her coat. Her modest 2-bedroom home sat on a quiet street lined with oak trees. The living room was neat and warm, decorated with understated elegance, tasteful art on the walls, well-worn but quality furniture, and shelves lined with medical journals and classic novels. She kicked off her shoes and poured herself a glass of red wine. The silence of the house wrapped around her like a familiar blanket. Olivia moved to the bookshelf and pulled out an old video cassette from behind a row of books. She rarely watched it, but tonight she felt drawn to it. The TV flickered to life as she inserted the tape. On screen, a little girl with bright eyes and beaded braids blew out candles on a birthday cake. 3 tiny flames extinguished with one exuberant breath. "Make a wish, Zora," Olivia's voice called from behind the camera. Olivia sank into her couch, wine forgotten as she watched her daughter's 3rd birthday unfold. Zora's excited squeal as she opened presents, the way she'd insisted on wearing her princess crown all day. The proud smile as she showed off her new bicycle with training wheels. It had been 8 years since the accident. 8 years since a drunk driver had taken Zora away. Olivia never spoke about it. Her colleagues knew she'd lost a child, but she kept the details locked away. The pain had dulled over time, transformed into a quiet ache that accompanied her everywhere. When the video ended, Olivia wiped a stray tear and carefully returned the tape to its hiding place. She glanced at the clock, 9:47 p.m. Too late to call her sister in Atlanta, too early to go to bed. The rain continued to fall outside her window, and Olivia decided to review some patient files. Work had always been her sanctuary. If she couldn't save her own daughter, at least she could help other children. An hour later, Olivia glanced up from her papers. The rain had intensified, drumming against the roof. She stretched and decided to call it a night, gathering her things to prepare for bed. That's when her phone rang. The hospital administrator needed her to come in early tomorrow. A colleague had called in sick, and they were short-staffed. Olivia agreed without hesitation. Sleep was often elusive anyway. After hanging up, she realized she'd left her umbrella at the clinic. Tomorrow morning would be miserable without it, especially if the rain continued. She glanced at the clock, still only 11:15 p.m. The clinic was a short bus ride away. She could retrieve her umbrella and be back within the hour. The streets were deserted as Olivia hurried through the rain toward the bus stop. Streetlights cast eerie halos in the mist, and her footsteps echoed on the wet pavement. The night air was heavy with the scent of wet earth and magnolia blossoms. As she approached the clinic, something made her slow her pace. A sound, so faint she almost missed it beneath the patter of raindrops. Olivia stopped, tilting her head to listen. There it was again. A whimper, almost inhuman in its desperation. Olivia hesitated, glancing at the dark clinic building. The sound seemed to be coming from the back alley. Common sense told her to keep walking, to get her umbrella and catch the last bus home. But something else, something deeper, made her turn toward the narrow passage beside the building. "Hello?" she called softly, peering into the darkness. No response, but the whimpering stopped momentarily. Olivia pulled out her phone, switching on its flashlight. The beam illuminated puddles and trash cans, casting long shadows against the brick walls. She moved cautiously, her nurse's instincts overriding her fear. "Is someone there? Are you hurt?" A rustling sound came from behind the dumpster. Olivia's heart pounded as she stepped closer, raising her light to see into the shadows. What she saw made her gasp. A child, a small boy no more than 7 or 8, was huddled against the wall. He was barefoot, wearing only a filthy t-shirt and torn shorts despite the cool night air. His pale skin was covered in dirt and bruises, his blonde hair matted with grime. He stared at her with wide, terrified eyes, pressing himself further into the corner as her light fell upon him. "Oh my God," Olivia whispered, immediately crouching down to appear less threatening. "Honey, are you okay? What are you doing out here?" The boy didn't respond. He just watched her with those haunted eyes, shivering violently. "I'm not going to hurt you," Olivia said gently, the way she spoke to frightened children at the clinic. "My name is Olivia. I'm a nurse. Can you tell me your name?" For a long moment, the boy remained silent. Then, so quietly, she almost didn't hear it. "Eli." "Eli," Olivia repeated softly. "That's a nice name. Are you hurt, Eli? Where are your parents?" The mention of parents. The boy flinched and drew his knees tighter to his chest. Olivia noticed fresh bruises on his arms and what looked like cigarette burns on his ankles. Her medical training kicked in as she assessed his condition. The boy was malnourished and dehydrated. The bruises were in various stages of healing, indicating ongoing abuse. The vacant look in his eyes spoke of trauma. Olivia knew the protocol. She should call Child Protective Services immediately. But something about the boy's terrified expression made her hesitate. CPS would place him in emergency foster care. Or worse, return him to whoever had done this to him if they couldn't prove abuse. "Eli, would you like to come with me? Get out of this rain? I can give you some food and dry clothes." The boy didn't move, his eyes fixed on her face as if trying to determine if she could be trusted. "I promise I won't hurt you," Olivia said. "You can leave whenever you want, but right now you need to get warm and dry." After what felt like an eternity, Eli gave a tiny nod. Olivia slowly removed her raincoat and held it out to him. "May I put this around you?" Another small nod. As gently as she would handle a wounded bird, Olivia wrapped the coat around the boy's shoulders. He flinched at her touch but didn't pull away. When she carefully helped him to his feet, she noticed he could barely stand. Without thinking twice, she lifted him into her arms. He weighed almost nothing. "I'm going to take you to my home," she explained as she carried him. "It's not far from here. We'll get you cleaned up and fed, okay?" Eli didn't respond, but he didn't struggle either. His small body trembled against hers as she hurried to the bus stop, praying they hadn't missed the last bus. They made it just in time. The driver gave them a curious look but said nothing as Olivia paid their fare. She sat with Eli curled against her side, her arm protectively around his shoulders. A few late-night passengers glanced their way, but no one questioned the black woman with the white child. In this neighborhood, Olivia was well known and respected. By the time they reached her home, Eli had stopped shivering, though his eyes remained wary. Olivia carried him inside and gently set him on the bathroom floor. "I'm going to run a warm bath for you," she explained. "Then we'll get those cuts cleaned up." Eli stood motionless as Olivia filled the tub. When she reached to help him remove his filthy clothes, he stiffened but allowed her to undress him. What she saw beneath the grime made her heart clench. The boy's body was a map of abuse, welts, bruises, and scars, both old and new. With gentle hands, Olivia bathed him, careful not to hurt his injured skin. Eli sat passively in the water, his eyes focused on some distant point. He didn't speak, didn't cry, didn't react as she washed away layers of dirt and blood. Once he was clean and dressed in an old t-shirt of Olivia's that hung to his knees, she led him to the kitchen. He sat at the edge of a chair, perched like a bird ready to fly. At the first sign of danger, "Are you hungry?" Olivia asked, opening her refrigerator. Eli's eyes widened slightly, the first real reaction she'd seen from him. She took it as a yes and quickly prepared a simple meal of scrambled eggs, toast, and apple slices. When she set the plate before him, Eli stared at it for a moment, then began to eat with desperate speed, as if afraid the food would be taken away. "Slow down, sweetheart," Olivia said softly. "There's plenty more. No one's going to take it from you." While Eli ate, Olivia assessed his injuries more thoroughly. None required immediate medical attention, but several would need careful monitoring. She applied antibiotic ointment to the worst cuts and wrapped his sprained wrist in a soft bandage. Throughout it all, Eli remained silent, watching her with those wary eyes. When he finished eating, Olivia led him to the living room. He sat on the edge of the couch, his small hands clutching the hem of his borrowed shirt. "Eli," Olivia said gently, sitting across from him. "Can you tell me what happened to you? Who hurt you?" The boy lowered his eyes, shaking his head almost imperceptibly. "That's okay," Olivia assured him. "You don't have to talk if you don't want to, but you're safe here." For hours, Olivia spoke softly to him, about nothing in particular, just soothing words to fill the silence. She told him about her garden, about the birds that visited her feeder, about the books she loved. Eli didn't respond, but his posture gradually relaxed and his eyelids grew heavy. When he finally fell asleep, Olivia carried him to the spare bedroom, the room that had once been Zora's. She tucked him beneath clean sheets and stood watching him for a long moment. In sleep, the tension left his face and he looked like any ordinary child. Olivia knew what she should do. She should call CPS first thing in the morning. She should report finding an abused child. She should follow protocol. Instead, she returned to the living room and sat heavily on the couch, her mind racing. Something about this situation felt wrong, beyond the obvious abuse. The boy's terror seemed specific, directed, and finding him behind her clinic of all places, Olivia barely slept that night. She checked on Eli hourly, afraid he might disappear, or that whoever had hurt him might somehow find him. Morning arrived with pale sunlight filtering through the curtains. Olivia made the call she knew she had to make, to Child Protective Services. The woman who answered sounded distracted, almost annoyed by the report. "A white male child, approximately 7 to 8 years old, found behind Riverside Health Clinic," Olivia reported. "Shows signs of severe physical abuse and malnutrition." "Name?" the worker asked. "He only gave me his first name, Eli." There was a pause, the sound of papers shuffling. "Eli, blonde hair, blue eyes?" Olivia frowned. "Yes. How did you?" "We've been looking for this child," the worker cut in, her tone suddenly brisk. "His father reported him missing 3 days ago. Said the boy's mentally disturbed mother took him. But the injuries, we'll send someone to pick him up immediately. His father is very concerned." The woman's eagerness set off alarm bells in Olivia's mind. "I'd like to speak with your supervisor about the signs of abuse I've documented," That won't be necessary. We're familiar with the case. I insist, Olivia said firmly. Fine. Someone will call you back. The line went dead. Olivia stared at her phone, a sense of unease crawling up her spine. Something wasn't right. The CPS worker had seemed almost relieved to hear about Eli, but not in the way a concerned social worker should be. At the clinic later that morning, Olivia pulled aside Nancy, a nurse who had worked in the community for decades. Do you know anything about a man named Whitmore? Olivia asked quietly. Brent Whitmore? Nancy's eyes widened, and she glanced around before leaning closer. Why are you asking about him? I can't say much, but it's about a child. Nancy's expression darkened. Be careful, Olivia. Whitmore owns half this town. His family goes back generations. Old money, old power. There are rumors. What kind of rumors? The kind decent folks don't repeat, Nancy whispered. But if you're mixed up with him somehow, tread lightly. People who cross Brent Whitmore tend to have accidents. The warning sent a chill through Olivia. When she returned home that evening, she found Eli exactly where she'd left him, sitting by the window, watching the street with vigilant eyes. As she prepared dinner, something fell from Eli's borrowed clothes that she'd placed in the laundry basket. A folded paper, an old intake form with cryptic initials and a smudged address that didn't match what she knew of Brent Whitmore's luxurious home across town. That night, after tucking Eli into bed, Olivia made a decision. She deleted her call, recorded to CPS from her phone, and sat down to think. She didn't understand why yet, but something was deeply wrong, and until she knew what it was, she would keep Eli safe. The morning sunlight streamed through the windows, casting warm patterns. Across the kitchen floor, Olivia watched as Eli cautiously approached the table where she'd laid out crayons and paper. The boy had slept through the night without nightmares, a small victory that gave her hope. Would you like to draw something? She asked, keeping her voice light. Eli didn't respond verbally, but he picked up a crayon and began to make marks on the paper. Olivia busied herself with washing dishes, giving him space while keeping him in her peripheral vision. After several minutes, she glanced over to see what he was drawing, her breath caught in her throat. The picture showed a house, not the cheerful square with a triangle roof that most children draw, but a looming structure with bars on one window. Stick figures populated the scene, several with cruel X's drawn over their mouths. That's very detailed, Eli, Olivia said carefully. Is that your house? Eli continued drawing without looking up, adding a small stick figure huddled in what appeared to be a dark square beneath the house. Who's that? Olivia asked, pointing to the figure. For the first time, Eli spoke unprompted. Me, he whispered. When I'm bad. Olivia felt her stomach twist. She wanted to ask more, but the boy had already retreated back into silence, focused intently on his drawing as if it was the only thing that mattered. Later that afternoon, Olivia called Andre Williams, a close friend who had served as a military investigator before returning to civilian life. They met at a coffee shop, 3 towns over, where Olivia was unlikely to be recognized. Andre listened without interruption as Olivia explained the situation, his dark eyes serious beneath heavy brows. At 42, he carried himself with the quiet confidence of a man who had seen the worst of humanity and chosen to fight it anyway. You realize you could lose your license for this, he said when she finished. Failing to report child abuse. Properly, harboring a minor. I did report it, Olivia countered. But something's wrong, Andre. The way that CPS worker reacted, it was like she already knew who Eli was before I described him. Andre nodded slowly. I'll poke around, but quietly. Whitmore's not someone you want to cross openly. Thank you, Olivia said, squeezing his hand gratefully. In the meantime, keep your head down. Don't tell anyone else about the boy. For the next 2 days, Olivia maintained her normal routine, going to work while a retired neighbor she trusted watched Eli, believing him to be her cousin's child visiting from out of town. Each evening, she tried to coax more information from the boy, but Eli remained largely silent, communicating mostly through his increasingly disturbing drawings. On the 3rd day, Andre called. Found something interesting, he said without preamble. Brent Whitmore filed a missing person report on his wife Catherine 6 months ago, claimed she kidnapped their son during a custody dispute. Did anyone investigate? Superficially, the case was closed quickly, unusually quickly. What about Eli? Any record of abuse reports? None, Andre said. Which is strange considering what you've described. In a town this size, someone should have noticed. The next morning, Olivia visited the local CPS office, asking to speak with the worker who had taken her call. The woman, Patricia Wilson, seemed uncomfortable from the moment Olivia entered her office. "I was wondering if you'd followed up on the case I reported," Olivia said pleasantly. "The boy named Eli?" Patricia shuffled papers on her desk. "That case has been assigned. We're working to reunite the child with his father." Without investigating the signs of abuse? "Ms. Carter," Patricia said stiffly, "we take all allegations seriously, but in this case we have reason to believe the injuries were inflicted by the non-custodial parent." "The mother?" Olivia pressed. "I'm not at liberty to discuss case details." Patricia stood abruptly. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I have another appointment." Olivia left the office more convinced than ever that something was wrong. She called Andre from her car. "Can you look into property records?" she asked. "Specifically, any transfers involving Patricia Wilson from CPS or her family." 2 hours later, Andre texted her. "Found it. Real estate deed in Whitmore's name transferred to Wilson's brother 6 months ago. Keep your doors locked tonight." That evening, Olivia sat watching Eli as he methodically arranged blocks on the floor. He seemed marginally more relaxed, occasionally glancing up to ensure she was still there. "Eli," she said gently, "can you tell me about your mom? About Catherine?" The boy's hands stilled. For a long moment he said nothing. Then so softly she had to lean forward to hear. "Mommy had to go away. She said the bad men would hurt her." "What? Bad men, Eli?" "Daddy's friends." His small fingers tightened around a block. "The ones who come to the parties." Before Olivia could ask more, Eli yawned, his eyelids drooping. It was past his bedtime. She helped him brush his teeth and tucked him into bed, her mind racing with questions. In the middle of the night, Olivia woke to screaming. She ran to Eli's room to find him thrashing in bed, his face contorted in terror. "Don't let Daddy put me in the hole again," he sobbed as Olivia gathered him into her arms. "Please, I'll be good." "Shh, you're safe," Olivia murmured, rocking him gently. "No one's going to put you anywhere, I promise." It took nearly an hour to calm him. When Eli finally drifted back to sleep, Olivia remained by his side, her resolve hardening with each breath. Whatever was happening in the Whitmore household, she would not send this child back to it. The next day, Olivia was surprised by a visit from Officer James Taylor, a local policeman she knew casually from the clinic. He appeared at her door in Icho. Plain clothes, his expression unreadable. "Ms. Carter," he said, "could I have a word?" Olivia's heart pounded. She had sent Eli to the back bedroom with strict instructions to stay quiet. "Of course," she said, leading Officer Taylor to the living room. "I'm here unofficially," he began, declining her offer of coffee. "Word is you've been asking questions about Brent Whitmore." "Just following up on a patient," Olivia said carefully. Taylor nodded slowly. "Look, I don't know what you're involved in, but I'd advise caution. Whitmore has connections throughout the department. Are you warning me or threatening me, officer?" "Taylor?" "Warning," he said firmly. "Some of us still remember our oath to protect and serve." As he stood to leave, he pressed a business card into her hand. On the back was a strange symbol, a circle with a line through it. "If you need help," he said quietly, "call this number, not 911. After he left, Olivia sat in stunned silence. The card trembled in her hand. She wasn't alone in her suspicions, but that made the situation more frightening, not less. That evening, as Eli slept, Olivia found herself drawn to the old video of Zora. As she watched her daughter's smiling face, memories flooded back. The funeral 3 days after the accident, standing beside a tiny casket beneath a gray sky. The promise she, had whispered as they lowered Zora into the ground. I will never turn my back on a child again, no matter what it costs me. Her reverie was interrupted by a call from Andre. You need to be careful, he said without greeting. I've been digging deeper, and Whitmore isn't just connected. He's untouchable in this county. Judge Patterson, Sheriff Monroe, half the city council. They're all in his pocket. What about Officer Taylor? One of the few good ones from what I hear. But he can't protect you if things go sideways. What should I do? Andre's voice was grim. If I were you, I'd leave town. Tonight. Take the boy and go somewhere Whitmore can't reach. I can't just run, Olivia protested. What about my job? My home? What about your life? Andre countered. And the boys? This isn't a game. Olivia. After they hung up, Olivia paced her living room, weighing her options. Running would mean admitting guilt, and it might not even keep Eli safe in the long run. There had to be another way. The television in the corner caught her attention, a breaking news bulletin. Olivia turned up the volume and froze. On screen, Brent Whitmore stood at a podium, his handsome face grave with concern. I want to thank Child Protective Services for their tireless work in trying to locate my son, he said, his voice breaking convincingly. Eli was taken from our home by his mother, who has a history of mental instability. We recently learned that a local woman named Olivia Carter may be harboring my son illegally. If you're watching this, Ms. Carter, please do the right thing. Eli needs his father. The camera cut to a family photo of Brent, a blonde woman, and a younger Eli, all smiling, the perfect image of a happy family. Then back to Brent, a tear rolling down his cheek as he pleaded for his son's return. Olivia sank onto the couch, her hand over her mouth. In one calculated move, Whitmore had branded her a criminal and himself a victim. The war had begun, and he had fired the first shot. The exclusive Oakwood Club sat at the edge of town, its wrought iron gates and stone walls keeping the outside world at bay. Inside the mahogany-paneled main hall, Brent Whitmore swirled amber liquid in a crystal tumbler, his relaxed posture betraying none of the rage simmering beneath his polished exterior. Across from him sat Malik Johnson, a man whose impeccable tailoring and easy smile concealed a ruthless efficiency. At 45, Malik had built a reputation for solving complicated problems discreetly, without leaving evidence. I appreciate you meeting on short notice, Brent said, his voice carrying the smooth confidence of old money. This situation requires special handling. Malik's expression remained neutral as he sipped his drink. You understand my services aren't cheap. Money isn't the issue. I need results. Tell me about the target. Brent slid a manila folder across the table. Inside was a surveillance photo of Olivia leaving her clinic, along with detailed personal information. Olivia Carter, nurse practitioner, lives alone. No immediate family nearby. She's taken something that belongs to me. Malik glanced at the photo. The boy mentioned in the news. Yes. My son. Brent's jaw tightened momentarily before he regained his composure. I need him returned quietly. The woman is becoming problematic. And the mother? Catherine, wasn't it? A flash of something dark crossed Brent's face. That's not your concern. Malik closed the folder and leaned back in his leather chair. Double my usual fee, and complete silence afterward. No bragging to your club friends about how you handled this. No loose ends. Agreed. Brent extended his hand. How soon can you start? I already have. Malik's smile never reached his eyes as they shook hands. The next morning, Olivia answered a knock at her front door to find a middle-aged man in a utility company uniform. He held up an ID badge with a reassuring smile. Morning, ma'am. Power. Company. We've had reports of voltage fluctuations in the neighborhood. Need to check your fuse box if you don't mind. Olivia hesitated. She'd sent Eli to the backyard with his breakfast out of sight. Can't it wait? I'm heading to work soon. Won't take but 2 minutes, the man, Malik, assured her. Otherwise, I'd have to come back with a formal notice, and that's a whole lot of paperwork for both of us. His easy manner and official-looking clipboard lowered Olivia's guard. All right, but please make it quick. Olivia led him to the utility room and waited as he inspected the fuse box, watching his every move. True to his word, the inspection took only minutes. "Everything looks good here," Malik said, closing the metal panel. "Sorry to trouble you, Ms. Carter." "No trouble," Olivia replied politely, escorting him to the door. As Malik walked back to his unmarked van, his smile vanished. Beneath his clipboard, he held a tiny electronic device, a listening bug he'd placed inside her fuse box when she'd glanced away. Now he would hear everything. Later that day, as Olivia prepared lunch, Eli approached her with tentative steps. 3 days of safety had begun to soften the constant fear in his eyes. "Are you hungry?" Olivia asked, placing a sandwich on the table. Eli nodded, climbing onto the chair. After a few bites, he spoke unprompted, a rare occurrence that made Olivia pause. "I had a hiding place," he said softly, his eyes on his plate. "Back home." Olivia kept her voice casual, afraid of shutting down this precious moment of openness. "Oh? Where was your hiding place?" "Behind the big chair in the library." Eli's voice grew slightly stronger. "There's a loose wall part. I'd go there when Daddy drank the red bottle." "That was smart of you," Olivia said, fighting to keep the sadness from her voice. "Finding a safe place." "It wasn't always safe enough," Eli whispered, and fell silent again. That evening, Olivia made a decision. She needed to get Eli's story documented by someone with credibility, someone who could help bring his father to justice. She remembered Tasha Rowe, an investigative journalist who had written a series of exposés on child protection failures in neighboring counties. Using a prepaid phone, Olivia sent an anonymous message to Tasha's professional email, providing just enough details to pique the reporter's interest without revealing Eli's location. Meanwhile, Andre had been following Brent Whitmore's financial trail. In his small apartment, surrounded by printouts and a corkboard covered in notes, he noticed a pattern. "Damn," he muttered, connecting more strings between photos. Monthly payments from Whitmore's shell companies had been flowing to multiple recipients in CPS and local law enforcement for years. He picked up his secure phone, the one he used only for sensitive conversations, and called Olivia. "It's bigger than we thought," he told her. "Whitmore's been paying off officials for years. Judge Patterson, 2 deputies, at least 3 people in CPS. "Any sign of what they're covering up?" Olivia asked, her voice low as she watched Eli drawing in the living room. "Not yet. But these aren't small payments, Liv. Whatever Whitmore's into, it's worth a lot to keep it quiet." Across town, Malik had begun establishing himself in Olivia's neighborhood. Posing as a handyman doing odd jobs, he chatted with Mrs. Henderson next door. "New to the area?" the elderly woman asked as he repaired her fence. "Just picked up a contract with a property management company," Malik explained with practiced ease. "Lots of work in this neighborhood. That lady next door, she live alone." "Olivia? Such a dear. Works at the clinic. Always helping people." Mrs. Henderson leaned closer. "Though lately she's had company. A friend staying with her, I think. Military. Fellow. Comes by most evenings." Malik's hand stilled momentarily. "Boyfriend? Oh, I wouldn't know about that. Name's Andre something. Very protective of her." That evening, as Eli slept, Olivia found a new drawing on the coffee table. Unlike his previous pictures of the house with bars, this one showed a stick figure with curly hair, clearly meant to be Olivia, holding hands with a smaller figure. In the background, watching from a window, was a tall, menacing figure. Olivia's blood ran cold. She showed the picture to Andre when he arrived. "He knows. His father is looking for him," Andre said grimly. "How could he know that?" Olivia asked. "Kids sense things. Or maybe he overheard the TV." Andre studied the drawing. "We need to move faster. This isn't just about abuse anymore. I think Whitmore is part of something organized." The next morning, a woman with short black hair and glasses knocked on Olivia's door. She wore a delivery uniform and carried a small package. "Tasha," Olivia whispered, recognizing the journalist despite her disguise. "Can I come in?" Tasha asked, her voice equally low. Inside, Tasha dropped her courier act. "I've been investigating child trafficking networks for 2 years," she explained. "When I got your message about a boy with unexplained injuries and a powerful father with CPS in his pocket, I knew it could connect to my case." Olivia felt a chill. "Trafficking? You think Brent Whitmore is involved in trafficking children?" "I don't know yet," Tasha admitted. "But the patterns match cases I've seen before. Powerful men, protected by local officials, children who disappear or are labeled troubled." With Olivia's permission, Tasha documented Eli's injuries and photographed his drawings. She recognized the abuse patterns immediately. "These aren't random," she explained, pointing to the X's over the mouths in Eli's pictures. "This is a common symbol among children who've been threatened to stay silent." Before leaving, Tasha promised to check her sources about Catherine Whitmore's disappearance. "Be careful," she warned. "If Whitmore is connected to the network I'm investigating, he has resources we can't imagine." That afternoon, one of Olivia's colleagues at the clinic, a nurse named Rebecca, approached her with an uncomfortable expression. "Olivia, I need to talk to you," she said, pulling her into an empty exam room. "CPS called the clinic asking if you'd been acting strangely. They mentioned something about you hiding a kidnapped child." Olivia's heart sank. "And what did you tell them?" Rebecca looked away. "I said you seemed normal to me, but Olivia, if you're in trouble—" "I'm not," Olivia interrupted firmly, "but thank you for the warning." What Olivia didn't know was that Rebecca had already made an anonymous report, pressured by subtle threats against her teenage son who had a pending juvenile case. The report had been intercepted by Malik, who had established connections within local law enforcement through Brent's network. From his surveillance van, Malik watched Olivia's house that evening. Through his listening devices, he heard her tucking Eli into bed, her gentle voice soothing the boy to sleep. He raised his phone and dialed Brent's private number. "I've found your boy," he said without preamble. "He's with the woman, just as you suspected. They haven't left town." "Good," Brent replied. "When can you retrieve him?" Malik watched as Olivia checked the locks on her doors and windows. A new nightly ritual. "Soon. But there's a complication. A man named Andre Williams visits regularly. Ex-military. Looks capable. I don't care about complications. I want results." "You'll get them," Malik assured him, his voice cooling. "I'll deliver both. One way or another." The morning sun cast long shadows across Olivia's kitchen floor as Eli sat at the table, picking at his breakfast. 3 weeks had passed since she'd found him behind the clinic, and while his body was healing, his nightmares continued. "Eli," Olivia said gently, sitting across from him, "can you tell me more about your mom, about Catherine?" The boy stiffened, then reached for his pocket. After a moment's hesitation, he pulled out a small object, a tarnished locket on a broken chain. "Mommy gave me this," he whispered. "Said to never lose it." Olivia accepted the locket with careful hands. It was silver, tarnished with age, with delicate engravings around the edges. When she tried to open it, she discovered it wasn't a locket at all, but a tiny key case. Inside was a small brass key and an engraved name. "Lakewood Retreat." "Did your mom tell you what this is for?" Olivia asked. Eli shook his head. "She just said it was important, that I should keep it safe." Later, when Andre arrived, Olivia showed him the key. His brow furrowed as he examined it. "Lakewood Retreat," he mused. "There's a property with that name about 30 miles north of here. Old vacation homes around a private lake. Very exclusive." "Could it be Whitmore's property?" Olivia asked. "Worth checking out, but we'd have to be careful." The following day, they put their plan into motion. Olivia left Eli with Tasha, who had agreed to watch him at a secure location. Then she and Andre drove to the edge of town where they changed vehicles and clothes. "Remember," Andre said as they approached the Whitmore estate in a borrowed utility van, "we're just HVAC workers checking a reported gas leak. Keep your head down and let me do the talking." The Whitmore mansion sprawled across manicured grounds, its colonial architecture speaking of old Southern wealth. A security guard at the gate examined their fake work orders before waving them through with minimal interest. "Park around back," Andre instructed. "Service entrance." Once inside, they moved quickly. Andre had studied the property layout using county records, and he guided them toward the east wing. "According to the records, there's a partial basement beneath this section," he whispered. "Unusual for houses in this area." They found the basement door hidden behind a paneled wall in Whitmore's study. It was locked, but Andre made quick work of it with his specialized tools. The stairwell was dark, the air stale and damp as they descended. Andre's flashlight beam cut through the darkness, revealing a space that looked nothing like a typical storage basement. The room was small and windowless, with concrete walls and a drain in the center of the floor. A child-sized mattress lay in one corner, stained with substances Olivia didn't want to identify. The walls were covered with drawings, Eli's drawings, or ones very similar, showing the same house with bars, the same X's over mouths. "My God," Olivia breathed, her hand covering her mouth. Andre moved methodically around the room, photographing everything. "Look at this," he said, pointing to scratch marks on the wall beside the mattress. Someone was counting days. In a hidden drawer beneath a workbench, Olivia found a wooden box. Inside were photographs, dozens of them. Most showed Brent with various political figures at fundraisers and galas. But one caught her eye. It was older than the others, faded around the edges. Two young women stood together at what appeared to be a college campus protest, arms linked, smiling defiantly at the camera. One was black with close-cropped hair and warm eyes, a younger Olivia. The other was white with honey blonde hair and a determined expression. Olivia stared at the photo, her hands trembling. That's Catherine," she whispered. "You know her?" Andre asked, peering over her shoulder. "We were roommates at State," Olivia said, her voice hollow with shock. "Sophomore year, there was an ugly campus racism incident. Catherine stood with the black students when most white students wouldn't. We were close, but then what? There was a misunderstanding. I thought she betrayed my trust. We stopped speaking." Olivia shook her head, memories flooding back. "I never knew what happened to her after graduation. And now her son ends up behind your clinic," Andre finished. "That's not coincidence." She must have been trying to get Eli to me, Olivia realized. She remembered after all these years. A noise upstairs cut their conversation short. Someone had entered the study above them. "We need to go," Andre whispered, grabbing Olivia's arm. "Now!" They slipped out a cellar window, barely making it back to their van before a security guard rounded the corner of the house. As Andre drove them away from the estate, Olivia clutched the photograph, her mind racing. Why wouldn't she just come to me directly? She wondered aloud. Why leave Eli alone? Maybe she couldn't, Andre said grimly. By the time they returned to Olivia's house, evening had fallen. Tasha had brought Eli back, and he was drawing quietly in the living room when they arrived. "Find anything?" Tasha asked in a low voice. "More than we expected," Andre replied, moving to check the windows and doors, a security ritual he'd developed since becoming involved in Eli's case. Olivia was about to explain when she noticed something was wrong. The air felt different. A picture frame on the mantel was slightly askew. She put a warning hand on Andre's arm. Too late. The closet door swung open, and Malik stepped out, a pistol held casually at his side. "Please don't get up," he said smoothly. "Ms. Carter, Mr. Williams, we have things to discuss." Eli looked up from his drawing, his eyes widening in terror. "No," he whimpered, scrambling back against the wall. "It's okay, Eli," Olivia said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Go to your room. Right now." The boy fled down the hallway. Malik made no move to stop him. "Smart woman," he commented. "Better if the child doesn't see this conversation." "Who are you?" Andre demanded, his body tensed for action. "Just a messenger," Malik replied. "Mr. Whitmore is very eager to have his son returned. Things have gotten complicated, unnecessarily so." That son you're talking about has cigarette burns on his ankles, Olivia said, anger overriding her fear. Broken ribs that never healed properly. Night terrors about being put in the hole. You've seen that basement. You know what Whitmore is. A flicker of something, perhaps doubt, crossed Malik's face before his professional mask returned. I know you're in deeper than you realize, Ms. Carter. Whitmore isn't someone you can fight and win. But I'm authorized to offer you a choice. What choice? Andre growled. Walk away. Leave town tonight. Forget the boy. Forget what you saw. Forget all of it. In return, you get to live. The threat hung in the air between them. Olivia opened her mouth to respond, but Andre moved first. With a swift lunge, he knocked Malik's gun arm upward. The pistol discharged into the ceiling as the two men crashed into the bookshelf. Olivia dove for cover as they grappled across the room, upending furniture. Andre was younger and stronger, but Malik fought with the calculated precision of someone who had survived countless such encounters. A sharp blow to Andre's throat gave Malik the advantage, and he brought the pistol down toward Andre's head. Olivia grabbed a heavy lamp and swung it with all her strength. It connected with Malik's shoulder just as he pulled the trigger. The shot went wide, tearing into the wall. Andre recovered quickly, delivering a vicious strike to Malik's knee that sent him stumbling backward. There was a sickening crack as Malik's leg gave way beneath him. You're dead, Malik hissed through clenched teeth, raising his gun again. All of you. Before he could fire, Andre tackled him through the front window. Glass shattered as both men tumbled onto the porch. Olivia heard grunts, the thud of fists on flesh, then a final, decisive impact. When she dared to look outside, Andre stood alone, breathing heavily, blood streaming from cuts on his face and arms. Malik was gone, leaving only a trail of blood, droplets down the porch steps. He dropped this, Andre said, holding up a burner phone with a bloodied screen. And he left us a message before he ran. Olivia grabbed her first aid kit and began cleaning Andre's wounds as they spoke. What message? She asked, her hands shaking as she applied antiseptic to a deep cut on his forearm. He said we're in deeper than we know. Andre winced as the antiseptic stung. And based on what we found today, I believe him. As Olivia wrapped gauze around his arm, Andre caught her hand. His dark eyes held hers with an intensity that made her breath catch. Liv, he said softly. I can't just be your friend anymore. Not after all this. I need you to know that I... Don't, Olivia interrupted, gently pulling her hand away. Please, Andre, I can't lose anyone else. Not now. The pain in his eyes matched her own, but he nodded, respecting her boundaries. We should move you and Eli somewhere safe tonight, he said, his voice professional once more. That man will be back with friends. After gathering essential items, Olivia went to retrieve Eli from his room. The boy was huddled in his closet, clutching his drawing pad like a shield. It's okay, she assured him, kneeling down. We're going somewhere safe. He works for Daddy, Eli whispered. He's one of the bad men. I know, sweetie, but he's gone now. Andre made him leave. As Olivia helped Eli pack a small bag, Andre made a phone call to someone he trusted, Detective Lisa Morgan, one of the few honest cops he knew in the area. She had once been more than a colleague to him, but that was years ago. Lisa, it's Andre, he said when she answered. I need your help. It's about Brent Whitmore. A long pause followed. Whitmore, she finally said. You don't mess around, do you? What have you gotten yourself into? Something ugly. Can we meet? Somewhere private. The old boathouse, 1 hour. Come alone. Before they left, Eli tugged at Olivia's sleeve. His small face was solemn as he looked up at her. What happened to Mommy? He asked. Olivia knelt to his level, the photograph of her, and Catherine heavy in her pocket. We're going to find out, she promised. Together. As they loaded the car, Andre entered the coordinates from the locket into his GPS. The screen showed a location deep in the woods surrounding Lakewood Retreat. Whatever answers we're looking for, he said. I think we'll find them there. Olivia glanced at the darkened houses around them, suddenly feeling exposed. Somewhere in the shadows, Malik was nursing his wounds and planning his next move. And behind him stood Brent Whitmore, A man willing to do anything to keep his secrets buried. She helped Eli into the back seat, then took one last look at the home she might never see again. The war had escalated, and there was no turning back now. The pre-dawn air hung heavy with mist as Olivia, Andre, and Eli drove through winding forest roads. The coordinates from the locket led them deep into secluded woodland where pine trees stood like silent sentinels. Eli had finally fallen asleep in the back seat, his small body curled around his backpack as though it contained everything precious in his world. "We're close," Andre murmured, glancing at the GPS. His knuckles were still raw from the fight with Malik, dark bruises forming beneath the bandages Olivia had applied. The narrow dirt road opened to reveal a small clearing. There, barely visible, through the mist, stood a weathered cabin. Its wooden siding had grayed with age, windows clouded with years of neglect. The property showed no signs of recent maintenance, except for faint tire tracks cutting through the overgrown drive. "Someone's been here," Andre noted, killing the engine. "Recently." Olivia gently woke Eli. "We're going to look at a special place," she explained. "Your mom's special place. Do you remember ever coming here?" Eli rubbed his eyes, peering through the window. After a moment, he nodded slowly. "With Mommy. Before." Andre did a perimeter check while Olivia and Eli waited in the car. When he returned, his expression was grim. "No signs of anyone now, but the lock's been tampered with. We should be careful." At the front door, Olivia removed the tarnished key from the locket. It slid into the lock with surprising ease, turning with a heavy click that echoed in the morning. Stillness. The door swung open on protesting hinges, revealing a space frozen in time. Dust motes swirled in the shafts of light penetrating the grimy windows. A musty scent of abandonment hung in the air, mixed with the sharper tang of recent intrusion. Footprints marked the dusty floor, large prints that led to drawers left partly open, shelves hastily searched. "Someone was looking for something," Andre whispered. "But they didn't try very hard to cover their tracks." Eli clung to Olivia's hand as they entered, his eyes wide as he took in the surroundings. The main room held simple furnishings, a worn sofa, a wooden table with mismatched chairs, shelves lined with paperbacks and old board games. A stone fireplace dominated one wall, cold ashes still in the grate. "Anything seem familiar, Eli?" Olivia asked gently. The boy pointed to a faded quilt thrown over the back of the sofa. "Mommy's blanket," he said, "for story time." Andre moved methodically through the cabin, checking each room with professional thoroughness. In the small kitchenette, he examined a desk pushed against the wall. "Locked," he muttered, inspecting the single drawer. Olivia knelt beside him. "Let me try the key." It didn't fit. Andre examined the lock more closely. "This isn't original to the desk," he said. "Newer. Someone added it." While Andre worked on the lock, Olivia explored the bedroom with Eli. A queen-sized bed with a sagging mattress took up most of the space, flanked by a nightstand and a pine dresser. Taped to the wall above the bed were children's drawings. Colorful. Scenes of animals and trees, signed in wobbly letters. "Eli. Did you make these?" Olivia asked. Eli nodded, reaching up to touch one. "When I was little," he said, "before Daddy got mad." In the dresser, Olivia found women's clothing. Simple, practical items for a life away from scrutiny. In the bottom drawer, wrapped in a sweater, was a portable cassette player with headphones and a tape labeled, "For Olivia." Her hands trembled as she pressed play. Through the tinny speaker came a voice she hadn't heard in over a decade. "Olivia," Catherine's voice began, tired but determined. "If you're hearing this, then something's happened to me, and someone found my message. I pray it's you." A pause, a shaky breath. "I'm sorry for how things ended between us. I've regretted it every day. But I need your help now. Brent isn't who he pretends to be. He's dangerous, not just to me, but to others. There are children." Her voice broke. "I've gathered evidence. It's hidden here where he'd never look. I tried to get away, to bring Eli somewhere safe. If you're listening to this, please protect my son. You were always the strongest person I knew. The bravest. Olivia pressed stop, tears blurring her vision. Eli watched her with solemn understanding, beyond his years. "We found it," Andre called from the main room. Inside the desk drawer was a collection of journals, handwritten in Catherine's neat script, and a stack of mini cassettes similar to the one Olivia had just played. While Andre began examining the journals, Eli tugged at Olivia's sleeve. "The hiding place," he whispered, leading her to the kitchen pantry. At first, Olivia saw nothing unusual, just shelves with dusty canned goods and cooking supplies, but Eli pointed to the floor. "There," he said. "That's where Mommy hid." Looking closer, Olivia noticed a subtle difference in the floorboards. When she pressed on one edge, a section lifted, revealing a storage space beneath. Inside lay a metal lockbox, a flashlight, and a sleeping bag folded into a tight bundle. "She put me in here once," Eli said quietly. "Said not to come out no matter what I heard." Olivia lifted the lockbox, surprisingly heavy for its size. Inside was a stack of legal documents, property deeds, bank statements, and pages of handwritten notes detailing payments and transactions. "Oh my God," Olivia whispered as she flipped through the papers. "Andre, look at this." The documents revealed a tangled web of shell companies, property transfers, and coded entries. Catherine had meticulously documented Brent's activities, creating a paper trail of corruption and abuse. In a hollowed-out book titled Silenced Motherhood, Olivia discovered a flash drive labeled Backup. She passed it to Andre, who connected it to his laptop. "Photos," he said grimly, as images appeared on screen. "Transaction records, and Jesus, children." The flash drive contained evidence of what appeared to be a trafficking operation. Children, moved through various safe houses owned by Brent's companies. Names of wealthy clients, dates, and locations formed a sickening pattern. Among it all was documentation of bribes paid to officials who looked the other way. This is why she ran, Olivia realized, not just to escape him but to expose this. Outside, a twig snapped in the forest. Andre immediately closed the laptop and moved to the window, hand on his gun. "We need to go," he said quietly. "Now. Pack everything. All the evidence." As they gathered the materials, Eli suddenly began to tremble, sitting heavily on the floor. "Eli?" Olivia knelt beside him. "What's wrong?" "I remember," he whispered, rocking slightly. "Daddy and Mommy, fighting. Loud noise." He clutched his ears. Mommy screaming. Then quiet. So quiet. Olivia pulled him close, her heart breaking as she realized what he was describing. "It's okay," she soothed, though they both knew it wasn't. "You're safe now." Andre packed the car while Olivia comforted Eli. As they prepared to leave, Olivia's phone rang. Detective Lisa Morgan. "I've been looking at the files you sent," Lisa said without preamble. "This is bigger than anything I've seen. I'm opening a federal case, but quietly. It'll take time, and Whitmore may move against you before we can build a proper case." "Found more evidence," Olivia told her. "A lot more. Get it to me and stay hidden." As they drove away from the lake house, Andre spotted movement in his rear-view mirror, a shadowy figure watching from among the trees. When he pulled over to investigate, the figure was gone, but a piece of paper fluttered from a tree branch. It was a child's drawing, showing Olivia hanging from a tree. A clear threat. "He's found us," Andre said grimly, showing Olivia the drawing. "Somehow he's tracking us." Eli huddled deeper into his seat, eyes wide with renewed terror. "The bad men always find you," he whispered. "Daddy said so." As they drove through the gathering darkness, Olivia held the flash drive containing evidence of Brent's crimes. It felt impossibly small to contain such monstrous truths, and impossibly heavy with the responsibility it represented. Whatever happened next, there was no turning back. 2 days after discovering the lake house, Olivia returned to town in careful disguise. Her hair tucked beneath a blonde wig, sunglasses hiding her eyes. She moved through the crowded shopping center with deliberate anonymity. To any observer, she was just another harried mother running errands. Eli remained with Andre at a motel 30 miles away, beyond the reach of Brent's local influence. Detective Lisa Morgan had arranged the meeting at this public location, safer than any private space that might be watched. "Right on time," Lisa commented as Olivia slid into the booth across from her. The detective's weathered face betrayed no emotion, but her eyes held a sharpness that missed nothing. "Were you followed?" Lisa asked, stirring her coffee. "I switched cars twice and took the bus the last mile," Olivia replied. "Just like you said." Lisa nodded approvingly. "I've sent what you already gave me to a trusted federal contact. They're moving carefully. Whitmore has connections in some federal offices too. But this..." She tapped the flash drive Olivia had just passed to her. "This could change everything." Across town, Brent Whitmore stood before a mirror in his mansion, adjusting his silk tie with practiced precision. Tonight was his annual gala fundraiser for the Children's Future Foundation, his most public display of philanthropic concern for the welfare of children. The irony was not lost on him. His phone buzzed with a message from his lawyer. 6 board members want to distance themselves. Damage control needed. Brent's jaw tightened momentarily before his face smoothed into its habitual mask of confidence. The leaks had already begun to hurt him. Not enough to cause real damage, but enough to make the weak ones nervous. He picked up his phone and made a call. "Tell Jackson and Reynolds I need to speak with them before the gala. Remind them about their daughter's college admissions." That evening, the ballroom of the Grand Hotel glittered with wealth and influence. Brent worked the room masterfully, shaking hands and accepting praise for his charitable work. No one would guess that behind his smile, rage simmered. Someone had accessed his private files. Someone was systematically dismantling his carefully constructed world. The next morning, headlines across local news sites carried fragments of the story. Questions raised about children's charity finances, and federal investigation targets local businessman. No mention of Olivia or Eli. Lisa had kept their names out of it, but the pressure on Brent was building. Lisa called Olivia with an update. "Your friend Andre has been arrested," she said without preamble. "What? How?" Olivia clutched the phone tighter. Deputy Hargrove picked him up on assault charges, claims he attacked Malik Johnson. "It's fabricated, but they're holding him without bail. Hargrove works for Whitmore." "We need to get him out," Olivia insisted. "I'm working on it. But you need to be more careful than ever. They're trying to isolate you." After hanging up, Olivia paced the motel room, Eli watching her with worried eyes. Without Andre's protection, she felt exposed, vulnerable. But she couldn't abandon her friend. A knock at the door froze her in place. She motioned for Eli to hide in the bathroom, then approached cautiously, pepper spray ready in her hand. "Special delivery," called a teenage voice. Through the peephole, Olivia saw a young man in a courier uniform holding an envelope. After confirming he was alone, she cracked the door and accepted the delivery. The envelope contained a single sheet of paper addressed to Olivia Fields, her maiden name, and a faded photograph of Catherine holding a newborn Eli. The letter was dated just 4 months earlier. "If you're reading this, I've finally found a way to reach you. I can't say much, they're always watching, but know that everything I did was to protect him. The tunnel holds the truth. Be careful who you trust." See, Olivia stared at the letter, her hands trembling. "She was alive," she whispered. 4 months ago, Catherine was alive. When Eli emerged from hiding, Olivia carefully asked if he remembered any tunnels. The boy's face scrunched in concentration. Then he took his drawing pad and sketched a dark passage with rough walls. "Mommy took me there," he said. "We ran in the dark." She was scared. "Do you remember where this tunnel was?" Eli shook his head. It was nighttime. Cold. Later that day, Tasha Rowe called with news from her own investigation. "I've been tracking the backgrounds of kids who came through Whitmore's system," she explained. "Found something interesting. 8 of them attended the same charter school, Westbrook Academy. It's severely underfunded but gets regular donations from Whitmore's foundation." A recruiting ground, Olivia realized. Exactly. Vulnerable kids. Financial leverage over the school. Perfect pipeline. The next development came unexpectedly. Olivia received a text from an unknown number. Need to meet. About the boy. I've seen the tape. Despite every instinct warning against it, Olivia arranged a meeting in a public park, leaving Eli with Tasha. To her shock, the person waiting on the bench was Malik Johnson, his face bruised, leg in a brace from his fight with Andre. I should kill you, he said without preamble. Would make my life simpler. Then why are we talking? Olivia kept her distance, one hand in her pocket where she held a stun gun Lisa had given her. Because I have standards. Malik's voice was flat. I've done many things for money, but what's on that tape from the lake house? Trafficking children crosses a line. Didn't seem to bother you before. I didn't know the details. Whitmore hired me to retrieve his son. Simple job. Then I heard Catherine's recording. Olivia studied him, looking for deception. Why tell me this? Whitmore's put $100,000 bounty on the boy. Paid on delivery. No questions asked. Every mercenary in 3 states is looking for him. Malik leaned forward. I want out of this mess, but Whitmore doesn't let people walk away. So you want protection? I want Whitmore taken down, for my own survival. He handed her a phone. Everything I know about his operation is on there, names, dates, locations. Before Olivia could respond, Malik stood abruptly. We're being watched. North side of the park, blue sedan. He limped away without another word, vanishing into the crowd. That night, as Olivia reviewed Malik's information with Tasha, an explosion rocked the neighborhood. Through the motel window, they saw flames billowing from a house 3 blocks away, Lisa Morgan's house. Minutes later, armed men stormed their motel room. Federal agents, shouted a woman at the front of the group. Detective Morgan sent us. There's been an attempt on her life, and we have credible threats against you. Within minutes, Olivia, Eli, and Tasha were whisked into armored vehicles and driven to a safe house outside the county line. There they learned that Lisa had survived the bombing but was in critical condition. She managed to send a full dossier to federal authorities before the attack, the lead agent explained. We've been building a case in secret for weeks. Dozens of arrests are happening right now. But Brent Whitmore wasn't among them. Somehow, he'd vanished just hours before the warrants were served. In the following days, Olivia faced an impossible choice. The federal investigation was moving forward, but with Whitmore still at large, Eli remained in grave danger. Every day, in protective custody, was a day confined, a continuation of the boy's trauma. After a sleepless night of deliberation, Olivia asked to meet with Tasha privately. I need you to take Eli somewhere safe, she said. Somewhere not even I know about. What are you planning? Tasha asked, her journalist's instinct detecting the story beneath the words. I'm going to end this, Olivia replied. But I can't do it while watching over my shoulder for Eli. He needs complete safety, and I need to know he has it. And Andre? He's still in custody. That's my next stop. Olivia's expression hardened. Tell his lawyer to prepare for court. We're going to bring this into the light, all of it. It's time to end the shadows. In the quiet darkness of her temporary room, Olivia looked at the photograph of herself and Catherine from college. 2 young women who believed they could change the world before life pulled them in different directions. Now, years later, their paths had reconnected through Eli, a child who deserved far better than the cruelty he'd endured. I'll finish what you started, Olivia whispered to the image of her old friend. I promise. The next morning, Olivia stepped outside to find Andre waiting beside a federal agent's car. His face was bruised from his time in jail, but his eyes burned with determination. Heard you're planning to take on the world, he said. Just the part that hurt Eli, Olivia replied. Andre reached for her hand. Then let's do it together. As dawn broke over the horizon, casting long shadows across the land, Olivia knew the coming days would test everything she had. But for the first time since finding Eli behind that dumpster, she felt something unexpected. Hope. Morning sunlight streamed through the bulletproof windows of the federal courthouse as black SUVs pulled up to the secure entrance. Teams of agents in tactical gear scanned the perimeter, while plainclothes officers mingled with the gathering crowd of reporters and onlookers. Inside one of the vehicles, Olivia smoothed down her conservative navy dress, trying to calm her racing heart. 8 weeks had passed since the night Lisa Morgan's house was bombed. 8 weeks of safe houses, depositions, and constant vigilance. "You ready for this?" Andre asked from the seat beside her. His hand found hers, warm and steady. "As ready as I'll ever be," Olivia replied, squeezing his fingers briefly before releasing them. The courthouse steps seemed to stretch endlessly as they ascended, flanked by federal marshals. News cameras tracked their progress, reporters shouting questions that blended into white noise. Olivia kept her eyes forward, her back straight. This moment wasn't about her. It was about justice for Eli and countless other children. Inside, the marble-floored lobby, U.S. Attorney Karen Mitchell waited to greet them. Her tailored suit and severe bob projected authority, but her eyes held genuine compassion. "The indictments came through this morning," she told them quietly. 27 defendants, including 2 CPS workers, Sheriff Monroe, Judge Patterson, and 4 other local officials. The FBI froze Whitmore's domestic accounts an hour ago. "And Brent?" Olivia asked. Mitchell's expression tightened. Still no sign of him. Facial recognition picked him up at airports in 3 different countries last week. All false leads. "We believe he's using doubles to distract us." Andre looked grim. "He won't stop trying to find Eli. Which is why security remains at maximum," Mitchell assured them. "The safe house location is known only to Director Chambers and myself. Even I don't know which agents are guarding him." The conversation paused as a door opened down the hall. Lisa Morgan appeared, walking with a slight limp, a permanent reminder of the bombing that had nearly killed her. Since being released from the hospital, she had become the lead detective coordinating between local and federal agencies. "They're ready for Eli's statement," she announced. In a private chamber equipped with video conferencing technology, Eli sat beside Tasha Rowe. The boy looked different than when Olivia had first found him, healthier, his blonde hair neatly trimmed, his blue eyes less haunted. He wore a child-sized button-down shirt and khaki pants that made him look older than his 8 years. "Remember," Tasha told him gently, "you only have to answer the questions they ask. If you get scared or confused, just say so." Eli nodded solemnly. When he spotted Olivia on the screen, his face brightened momentarily. "Hi," he said softly. "Hi, sweetheart," Olivia replied, wishing she could reach through the screen and hug him. "You're being so brave." The judge entered the sealed courtroom, and the proceedings began. Eli's testimony was conducted via closed-circuit video to spare him the trauma of facing the defendants. His drawings, meticulously preserved and cataloged, became evidence, along with the medical documentation of his injuries and Olivia's detailed records of his care. When asked about the hole in the basement, Eli's voice grew small but remained steady. "That's where Daddy put me when I was bad," he explained, "or when people came to visit. Sometimes for a long time." "And what would happen during these visits?" the prosecutor asked carefully. "I couldn't see, but I could hear." Eli paused, his face troubled. "Crying. Kids crying." By the time his testimony concluded, there wasn't a dry eye among the court personnel. Even the court reporter had to pause, to compose herself. The federal judge thanked Eli for his bravery, and the boy was escorted back to the safe house, where a child psychologist waited to help him process the experience. Outside the courtroom, Andre wrapped an arm around Olivia's shoulders. "You okay?" She nodded, blinking back tears. "I just want this to be over, for him to have a normal life." "One step at a time," Andre said gently. "We've got convictions to secure first." The trial proceedings moved forward with remarkable speed for a federal case. Bail was denied for all defendants, given the flight risk and the severity of the charges. Prosecution witnesses included former employees of Whitmore's foundation, parents of missing children, and financial experts who had traced the money trail through various shell companies. 3 days into the proceedings, Andre was released from his protective detail to testify about the evidence found at the Whitmore estate and the lake house. His military background and clear, precise testimony made him an excellent witness, unshakable under cross-examination. Mr. Williams, the defense attorney asked with calculated skepticism, "Isn't it true that you entered Mr. Whitmore's property, illegally, without a warrant?" "I entered at the request of Olivia Carter, who believed a child was in imminent danger," Andre replied calmly. "The Fourth Amendment has clear exceptions for exigent circumstances where human life is at risk." As Andre stepped down from the witness stand, he caught Olivia's eye and gave her a reassuring nod. That evening, they met in the secured hotel where witnesses were being housed. "You were amazing in there," Olivia told him, as they shared a quiet dinner in her room. Andre shrugged modestly. "Just told the truth." "Still." She hesitated, then continued, "I've been thinking about what you said that night at my house, about not just being friends anymore." His expression softened. "Liv, you don't have to." "I want to," she interrupted. "When this is over, when Eli is safe, I'd like to see where this could go. Us, I mean." Andre's smile was worth every moment of fear and uncertainty she'd endured. "I'd like that too," he said simply. Their moment was interrupted by an urgent knock. Lisa Morgan entered, her face grave. "We have a situation," she announced. "Whitmore's surfaced." He released a video statement an hour ago. On Lisa's tablet, they watched as Brent Whitmore appeared, seated in what looked like a luxury apartment. His usual polished appearance remained intact, but a hardness in his eyes betrayed his desperation. "My fellow Americans," he began with practiced sincerity, "I speak to you today as a father unjustly separated from his son. These outrageous accusations, this witch hunt, is the work of a disturbed woman named Olivia Carter, who has brainwashed my child and fabricated evidence to destroy me." The video continued for 3 minutes, Whitmore denying everything while painting himself as the victim of a vast conspiracy. He claimed to be in hiding for my own protection and promised to fight this injustice with every resource at my disposal. "Can they trace it?" Andre asked when the video ended. Lisa shook her head. "It was bounced through servers in 6 countries. Digital forensics thinks it was recorded somewhere in Europe, but that could be deliberate misdirection." The video had its intended effect, creating confusion in the media and providing ammunition for Whitmore's remaining supporters. Several pundits questioned the federal case, suggesting political motivations behind the prosecution. But the tide turned dramatically the following day. Federal agents announced they had completed their search of an abandoned rail tunnel near the county line, the tunnel Eli had mentioned in his drawings. Deep within its darkened passages, they discovered a hidden chamber that contained skeletal remains, a necklace identified as belonging to Catherine Whitmore, and evidence of long-term captivity. Forensic analysis confirms the remains are those of Catherine Whitmore, U.S. Attorney Mitchell announced to the packed courtroom. Cause of death was a gunshot wound to the base of the skull, execution style. Time of death is estimated at approximately 9 months ago. Olivia closed her eyes briefly, grief washing over her. Catherine had been alive all this time, hiding, fighting, trying to protect her son, only to be murdered months before Olivia found Eli. The letter dated 4 months ago had been a final, desperate attempt to reach out, perhaps written well before her death, but only delivered afterward through some prearranged system. The discovery in the tunnel silenced many of Whitmore's defenders. Public opinion shifted dramatically as details emerged about Catherine's final months, hiding with Eli, gathering evidence, trying to expose her husband's crimes, while staying alive long enough to secure her son's safety. Then came the most unexpected development of all. During the morning session a week into the trial, the courtroom doors opened, and Malik Johnson walked in. The professional fixer moved with the same confident grace despite his healing leg, his expression revealing nothing as he approached the prosecutor. "I'd like to testify," he announced, loud enough for everyone to hear. After a brief recess to confer with the unexpected witness, U.S. Attorney Mitchell called Malik to the stand. The courtroom fell silent as he was sworn in. "Mr. Johnson, what was your professional relationship with Brent Whitmore?" Mitchell asked. "I was his problem solver," Malik replied without hesitation. "For 7 years I handled situations that required discretion, tracking people, applying pressure when needed, making problems disappear." "And what specific problems did you handle for Mr. Whitmore?" Malik's testimony over the next 2 hours blew the case wide open. He detailed operations involving child trafficking, blackmail of public officials, and systematic corruption throughout the county. His meticulous records implicated not just the current defendants but dozens of others, wealthy donors, business executives, even a sitting congressman. "Why are you coming forward now?" Mitchell asked. Malik's expression hardened. "I've done many questionable things in my career, but I draw the line at hurting children. When I learned what he was really doing with those kids..." He shook his head. Some lines shouldn't be crossed. As he prepared to face cross-examination after lunch, Malik accepted a cup of water from a court officer. He took a sip, then paused, a strange expression crossing his face. Within seconds, he collapsed, convulsing violently. "Medical emergency!" Lisa shouted, rushing forward as chaos erupted in the courtroom. Despite immediate medical attention, Malik Johnson was pronounced dead 30 minutes later. Preliminary toxicology showed a fast-acting neurotoxin in his system, one favored by high-level assassins. "Someone got to the bailiff's assistant," Lisa explained grimly as federal agents locked down the courthouse. Temporary hire, false credentials, vanished in the confusion. The message was clear. Brent Whitmore's reach extended even into the federal courthouse. No one was truly safe. That evening, in the secured conference room where the prosecution team had gathered, Mitchell spread out a file on the table. "Malik Johnson's final gift," she explained. "He left this with his attorney, to be delivered if anything happened to him." Inside was Catherine's final journal, recovered from a safety deposit box Malik had accessed days before. The handwritten pages chronicled her desperate attempts to gather evidence while protecting Eli, her discovery of the trafficking network, and her growing fear as Whitmore closed in on their hiding place. The journal's final entry was dated 9 months earlier. "If you're reading this, I'm probably gone. But if my son is safe, if the truth is finally coming out, then it was worth everything. To whoever found him, whoever's protecting him now, thank you. You've given him the chance I couldn't." When the journal was read into court record the next day, several jurors openly wept. Even the defense attorneys looked shaken, some refusing to make eye contact with their clients. After 3 weeks of testimony and 2 days of deliberation, the verdicts were delivered, guilty on all counts for 26 defendants. Brent Whitmore, tried in absentia, was convicted on 23 federal charges including child trafficking, conspiracy, murder, and corruption. Outside the courthouse, beneath a sky washed clean by spring rain, Olivia faced the press alongside Bondre, Lisa, and the federal prosecution team. "Today, justice was served," Mitchell told the assembled reporters. "But our work continues. Brent Whitmore remains at large, and we will not rest until he is brought to account for his crimes." A reporter shouted a question to Olivia. "Ms. Carter, how does it feel to be vindicated after everything you've been through?" Olivia stepped forward, her voice steady. "This was never about vindication for me. It was about a little boy who deserved to be protected. It was about keeping a promise to his mother. And it was about all the children who suffered while people looked the other way." As cameras flashed, Olivia felt a strange mixture of triumph and unease. Brent Whitmore had been condemned, his network exposed and dismantled. But he was still out there somewhere, watching, waiting. The shadow of his threat still loomed over Eli's future. "It's not over," Andre said quietly as they walked away from the podium. "No," Olivia agreed, her hand finding his. "But it's a beginning." Golden afternoon light filtered through tall windows, casting warm patterns across polished hardwood floors. Children's laughter echoed down the hallway of what had once been an abandoned school building and was now the Horizon Recovery Center for traumatized children. 5 years had transformed both the building and the lives within it. Where, broken, windows and graffiti once marred the walls, Colorful murals now depicted scenes of hope and healing. Classrooms had become therapy spaces, art studios, and safe places for children to rebuild their sense of security. In her office overlooking the playground, Olivia Carter reviewed the quarterly reports with quiet satisfaction. From an emergency shelter for 3 displaced children, the center had grown to serve over 60 young clients in various programs. State funding had been supplemented by private donations and grants, allowing them to hire specialized therapists and expand their facilities. A knock at her door broke her concentration. Andre's tall frame filled the doorway, his smile as warm as it had been on their wedding day 2 years earlier. "The self-defense class is wrapping up," he announced. "Those 4th graders are getting pretty good. Might put me out of a job soon." Olivia laughed. "I doubt that. You're their favorite teacher." Andre had retired from private investigation work when the center opened, choosing instead to teach self-defense and confidence building to the children in their care. His military experience made him an excellent instructor, but it was his gentle patience that truly reached the traumatized kids. "Eli still planning to come by after school?" he asked, leaning against the doorframe. "Should be here by 4. He's excited about that science project you've been helping him with." At 12 years old, Eli Thompson, the legal surname they created for his protection, was thriving in his private academy across town. The traumatized boy Olivia had found behind a dumpster had blossomed into a bright, thoughtful young man with a passion for science and an extraordinary capacity for kindness. The road hadn't been easy. Nightmares plagued him for years, and certain triggers could still bring back flashes of terror. But with consistent therapy and the stable, loving environment Olivia and Andre provided, Eli had defied everyone's expectations for recovery. After the trial, Olivia had become Eli's legal guardian. The adoption process was completed on his 9th birthday, a day marked by cake, presents, and happy tears as he officially became part of their family. Though they'd moved to a new house in a gated community with excellent security, they remained vigilant. Brent Whitmore had never been found. Later that afternoon, Olivia worked in her garden while waiting for Eli's return from school. The raised beds of vegetables and herbs had become her sanctuary, a place to reconnect with life's simple rhythms after days spent helping children process complex trauma. The doorbell's chime pulled her from her thoughts. Checking her watch, she frowned slightly. Too early for Eli, who always texted when he was on his way. Removing her gardening gloves, she walked through the house, automatically checking the security panel before approaching the front door. Through the peephole, she saw a man she didn't recognize, mid-40s, well-dressed in a gray suit holding what appeared to be an old wooden box. His posture was non-threatening, but caution had become second nature to Olivia. She activated the doorbell camera's 2-way communication system. "May I help you?" she asked. The man looked up at the camera. "Ms. Carter? My name is Daniel Pearson. I need to speak with you about Catherine Whitmore." Olivia's heart skipped a beat. She pressed the emergency alert button on her phone, a silent signal to Andre and their security team. Before opening the door partway, the security chained still. "Engaged. What about Catherine?" she asked, her voice carefully neutral. "May I come in? This isn't a conversation for your doorstep." "I'm afraid I'll need more information first." Daniel nodded, understanding her caution. "I'm Catherine's brother. I've been searching for her and Eli for years. I only recently discovered what happened." He held up the wooden box. "She wanted you to have this if anything happened to her." After a thorough ID check and security sweep, Olivia allowed Daniel into their living room. Andre arrived within minutes, positioning himself protectively nearby as Daniel placed the wooden box on the coffee table. "I was working overseas when Catherine first contacted me about Brent," Daniel explained. "By the time I returned to the States, she'd already gone into hiding. We communicated through dead drops and encrypted messages, never directly. I was trying to help her build a case against him from the outside." "Why didn't you come forward during the trial?" Andre asked, his tone skeptical. "I was following Catherine's explicit instructions. She made me promise to stay hidden, to be the backup plan if everything failed." Daniel's eyes reflected years of guilt and grief. "I was in deep cover in Eastern Europe when she was killed. I didn't even know until the case made international news. And you've been looking for us since then? Olivia asked. Daniel nodded. For Eli, mainly. Catherine told me if anything happened to her, I needed to find the woman who saved her son. It took time to put the pieces together, to verify it was safe to approach you. He gestured to the box. Catherine prepared this years ago, updated it periodically. She never mailed it, too risky. But she made sure I knew where to find it. With careful hands, Olivia opened the wooden box. Inside lay the original silver locket that had contained the key to the lake house, Catherine's wedding ring, and a faded photograph of Olivia and Catherine from their college days, the same image Olivia had found at the Whitmore estate. Beneath these items was a sealed envelope with Olivia's name written in Catherine's elegant script. While Andre escorted Daniel to the kitchen to give her privacy, Olivia opened the letter with trembling fingers. My dearest Olivia, if you're reading this, then the worst has happened, but Eli is safe with you. There's a poetry to this that brings me comfort, that my oldest friend, the woman I betrayed out of cowardice all those years ago, would be the one to save my son. I've spent years documenting Brent's crimes, gathering evidence while pretending to be the perfect wife. When I discovered what he was really doing with his charity, I knew I had to get Eli away. I remembered your kindness, your courage, your unshakable moral compass. Even after how badly I hurt you, I knew you were the one person who would protect my child at any cost. Please forgive me for the past and for placing this burden on you. Know that in my darkest moments, it was the memory of your friendship that gave me strength. Tell Eli I loved him more than life itself. Tell him his mother tried to be brave. With eternal gratitude and love, Catherine. Tears streamed down Olivia's face as she finished reading. The letter answered questions that had haunted her for years, filled gaps in a story she'd pieced together from fragments. Catherine had chosen her specifically, trusting her with what mattered most. The sound of the front door opening announced Eli's return from school. Hastily wiping her eyes, Olivia placed the letter back in the box as the boy bounded into the living room, his backpack slung over one shoulder. Hey, sorry Eli stopped short, noticing the stranger in the kitchen and the emotion on Olivia's face. What's going on? Daniel turned at the sound of Eli's voice, his expression a mixture of shock and wonder. You look just like her, he said softly. Eli glanced at Olivia questioningly. Eli, she said gently, this is Daniel Pearson. He's your mother's brother, your uncle. The boy's eyes widened. In the years since the trial, they'd explained his history to him in age-appropriate ways, never hiding the truth, but careful not to overwhelm him. He knew about his mother's bravery, about her efforts to protect him. But family beyond Olivia and Andre, that was new territory. I didn't know Mom had a brother, Eli said cautiously. She was protecting me too, Daniel replied. Just like she protected you. As Eli stepped further into the room, his gaze fell on the open wooden box. Recognition flickered across his face at the sight of the locket. That was Mom's, he said. Yes, Olivia confirmed. Your uncle brought it for us. Eli moved closer, examining the contents with solemn curiosity. When he saw the photograph of young Olivia and Catherine, he picked it up carefully. You knew my mom before? When you were young? We were college roommates, Olivia explained. Best friends once upon a time. The boy absorbed this information with remarkable composure. Then, looking directly at Olivia, he asked the question that had clearly been building in him for some time. Can I call you Mom now? For real? The question caught Olivia off guard. Though she'd been his legal mother for years, they'd maintained the gentle distinction in names. She was Olivia, not Mom, out of respect for Catherine's memory. Tears welled in her eyes again as she pulled him into a hug. Of course you can, sweetheart, if that's what you want. Andre moved to join them, placing a hand on Eli's shoulder. The three of them stood together, a family forged not by blood, but by choice, by struggle, by love that had endured the darkest of shadows. Later, after dinner with Daniel and lengthy conversations about Catherine, happy stories from her childhood that filled in pieces of Eli's heritage. They showed him to the guest room. Tomorrow would bring more questions, more stories, more healing. As Olivia tucked Eli into bed, he asked one final question. Do you think she knows that I'm okay now? Olivia smoothed his hair back from his forehead, the gesture as natural as breathing after years of comforting him. I believe she does, she said softly, and I think she'd be incredibly proud of the person you're becoming. After Eli fell asleep, Olivia stood at the window of their living room, gazing out at the quiet street. Andre joined her, wrapping his arms around her waist from behind. You okay? He asked, resting his chin on her shoulder. Better than okay, she replied. Just thinking about how far we've come. In the distance, news played quietly on the television. An international report about an American man who had died in a boating accident off the coast of Greece. Facial recognition software had tentatively identified him as Brent Whitmore, though confirmation was pending. After 5 years of searching, it seemed an anticlimactic end to their nightmare, if it was truly him at all. But Olivia wasn't focused on Brent Whitmore anymore. She had stopped allowing him to occupy space in her thoughts years ago. Instead, she leaned back against Andre's strong chest, grateful for the life they had built from the ashes of tragedy. As evening deepened into night, Olivia checked on Eli one last time. The boy slept peacefully, Catherine's letter resting on his nightstand where he had asked to keep it. From his doorway, Olivia could see Andre standing watch by the living room window. Alert, protective, unafraid. We survived the shadows, she whispered to herself, Catherine's words from the letter echoing in her mind. And we're not afraid of the dark anymore. Have you ever wondered what courage you might find within yourself if faced with an impossible choice between safety and justice? When the most vulnerable among us are threatened, where do we draw the line between self-preservation and moral obligation? If this story moved you, please like and subscribe for more tales of ordinary people finding extraordinary strength in the darkest of circumstances.